Drug overdoses are at an all-time high, and at the same time, some of the biggest hit songs are all about drugs. But the abuse epidemic is real. In an exclusive interview, I sit down with TV superstar Wendy Williams to find out why she's so passionate about raising awareness. The music video for the title track of Future and Juice Wrld's album, World on Drugs, could not be more clear in its message. The high school setting and slick production add to the allure for the age group too young to legally buy alcohol. There's a human toll behind these grim statistics. One person dies every 8 minutes in the United States from an overdose. That's a big concern to Wendy Williams, who battled substance abuse early in her career.
These pills and the K2, what are people doing? It's almost like we're losing a whole generation of people to drugs.
The autopsy report just released for hip-hop artist Mac Miller gives his cause of death as accidental from mixed toxicity of fentanyl, cocaine, and ethanol. He started on lean, which is codeine cough syrup mixed with soda. The album cover for Juice Wrld shows lean poured over the globe with pills everywhere.
I feel like it's being so glorified right now that it's making it okay and permissive.
Up-and-coming artist Goo Mitch, also known as King Gooey, whose latest video as King of New York, agrees and says there's no question that drug lyrics and music are a powerful influence.
Music encourages people to do everything. No matter what kind of music it is, any lyric gonna encourage people. You make a love song, it might encourage a girl to break up with a boyfriend. You make a song about weed, it might encourage somebody to get high.
Wendy is so concerned, she created a foundation with her husband Kevin Hunter called the Hunter Foundation. They're determined to save lives, especially with the K2 problem that we see on city streets, but is often hidden in the suburbs.
It was just something that Kevin and I started just to do ourselves, to give back to people.
The reasons for drug use and abuse go way beyond lyrics and trends. Let's find out what our panel has to say. Joining me for this conversation is King Gooey. He's a hip-hop artist from Patterson. His new video is King of New York, and he's been on national tours with a number of artists. Gooey, great to have you with us on the show.
Definitely great to be here.
Thank you so much. Also joining us is Dr. Arabia Mollett. She's an emergency room doctor, and she treats many drug overdoses. Dr. Arabia, great to have you with us.
Thank you. Peace and blessings.
Peace. Thank you so much. Also with us is Chuck Creekmer. He's the CEO and founder of allhiphop.com. Chuck, a lot of people were very saddened, naturally and understandably about the death of Mac Miller. We learned that it was a toxic combination of fentanyl, ethanol, and cocaine that was responsible for his accidental death. But he started out on lean. There's videos of him with a big soda bottle and the whole thing. Let's start at the beginning. The lean thing, we used to think of it as just being a Southern thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if you go back far enough to even like the Ghetto Boys and groups like that, you would hear different references to lean, and it had different names as well. And it was really only considered a Southern combination or drug, if you will. But it's spread quite a bit. I mean, it's all over now through the whole country and beyond. And it's really, I think, treated as a casual thing by most people who don't quite understand how dangerous it really is. And it's surprising because so many people have died from lean or had major complications from it, like Wayne or Rick Ross and others. And so it's kind of baffling in a lot of ways why it still continues to be perpetuated in lyrics and in real life even.
And more so than ever before, it seems, and in the biggest songs.
I know, and I mean, it's quite baffling, but I think, we have to really look at the larger picture and who's promoting this and who is here behind the curtain, so to speak, allowing this to come through to our community, our kids, and I don't think we see the pervasiveness of drug culture in other music forms and other cultures as well.
Yeah. No, but there've been rock groups and throughout the going back to the the Beatles that have been talking about it. But it just seems like every single song.
Well, that's what I mean.
These are the hottest songs, and it's the #1.
Well, I mean, that's what I mean. I mean, I just feel like it's a you don't see, say, like Taylor Swift. She's a pop artist. You see pop artists. Right. Yeah, you see literally, to me, pop artists singing, and they are rewarded through success and it's not there's no stigma attached to it. To
Right.
me. So if you're rewarded for rapping about it, you may not even do it, but it may be the thing to do to become successful, to become wealthy, or to change your conditions,
or to give a certain look, or like a certain
Absolutely.
style. Goey, what about that? As an up and coming artist, you've been out on tour. Tell us about your experiences with this.
I'm saying, well, basically, like, everybody got their own drug of choice. It's a list of drugs that everybody do, like, outside of lean, that also take a toll on people that they don't put on social media, that you don't see. So, of course, everybody gonna look at it as though, like, I experienced lean myself. Like, I drink lean. Like, to this day, I drink lean. Like, so I can actually speak on, like, it get you high. Everybody want to feel as though, like, you dealing with whatever you doing, whatever. It's not good for younger people to do, though, because they looking at it like these people are probably glorifying for them to do it, or they want to be cool and look like them. That's not the case. You feel me? Like, it's people doing. It's no excuse to do drugs, but at the end of the day, you can't target one drug without talking about the rest of them. Like,
Well, let's just talk about the lean for a second, because a lot of people say that's kind of like I hate the term gateway drug, but that's kind of like kids' first introduction. What exactly do you put in? How do you exactly make lean? What is it? Explain that for people.
Get promethazine, codeine, and your soda of choice. Like, that's it. You pour it in the soda, you shake it up, and you in there. But, like, they say that's a gateway drug now, and they said weed was a gateway drug. They changed that now.
Right.
Like, now they say weed is not a gateway drug anymore. So it's like, you gotta stick to what you're gonna. If you think weed was a gateway drug, now you say lean is a gateway drug.
But I don't think we saw, Dr. Arabia, we see people ever overdose on marijuana.
You don't overdose on marijuana. You the only time you ever overdose on marijuana when you cut it with something else. To understand the effects of it, I remember you mentioned Ghetto Boys. I remember when Pimp C and Big Pimpin', and he died from an accidental overdose of drinking lean. And as a matter of fact,
Speaking Knockers did also too. Speaking Knockers died of I think promethazine also.
Right, so he died with lean, which is the codeine and promethazine.
So how do you die from it though? Like from lean, if you're putting cough syrup in the soda, that green soda bottle we always see in a lot of videos and stuff too.
The thing is that people, I think that a lot of people don't understand the nasty or the side effects or the adverse effects of not just lean. Lean is, again, what you just mentioned before, the two components is codeine, which is an opiate, and opiates is a narcotic. Right, it's a narcotic that once it attached to your opiate receptors in your brain, your spine, and your intestinal, your gastrointestinal systems, as well as in your lungs, it produces a morphine-like effect. So what it does is that if you overdose on lean, whether it be lean, whether it be Imodium AD, which is an anti-diarrhea drug, which is also an opiate because it's a big thing as well, that it can cause what is called a hypoxic brain injury, meaning that lack of oxygen to your brain. Eventually, you can develop seizures, you develop respiratory depression, and eventually death. And then if it's that severe, a lot of people can actually develop it or go into a vegetative state. And so that's how real it is in these side effects. And that's the problem that a lot of, and I'm not going to just say young people, because there's people around my age too. I'm an 80s baby that also do it as well. Right. But they don't understand the side effects of it. It's not that it's not a big deal. It is a big deal, because as an emergency physician, I'm seeing kids young as 8, 9, 10, 11 years old coming into the emergency room overdosing on these drugs. When you combine it with alcohol, which is another drug that we're facing as a crisis in the United States.
Right, which is legal, but it's a huge problem as well.
It's a huge problem because alcohol is more socially accepted, but people don't even really understand the effects of alcohol too, because it acts like a sedative. Right. And it also has some of the similar effects. So I'm also seeing kids from 5, not necessarily 5, but like 8, 9.
8 years old.
8 years old. 8 years old coming in high off of lean, and some of them don't even come back from it. And I'm have to be the one to break the news to the family members that their child had passed away because of this. And this is
You've actually seen a kid that young pass away from it?
Of course.
So basically they just stop breathing. It stops your brain, so you just stop breathing,
Stop breathing because your breathing centers is in your brain.
Oh, wow. That's
the major
so
breathing
sad.
center is in your brain. It's located in your brain.
That is so sad. Well, we're going to continue talking about this because we want to save lives, and we also want people to be informed about what choices they make and what the possible consequences could be. This is Street Soldiers. I'm your host, Lisa Evers. We'll be back right after this.
It's very complicated to understand addiction. It's something that we still don't understand why people become addicted.
Let's talk about the lyrics itself. Gooey, you say you did lean, you do lean now, but do you feel like the lyrics encourage people to do this, or is there a connection?
Music encourages people to do everything. No matter what kind of music it is, any lyric gonna encourage people. You make a love song, it might encourage a girl to break up with a boyfriend. You make a song about weed, it might encourage somebody to get high. Feel me? Of course it does.
And what about for you? What made you start sipping?
Honestly, I don't know. Like, I can't give you I'll be lying if I told you I knew. Like, I can't even remember the first time I drunk lean. Like, it's just like the music, I can't even say it's the music, it's like you just end up doing your piece around your peers do it, like, you know, it's not so, I won't say peer pressure, but I'll say like
part of the
what's
culture
around you, exactly, it becomes a part of the culture, like everything spreads.
But do you wake up in the morning and,
No.
and go like, can you go a day, like if you had a day and
Yeah.
you know they were running you around on a crazy schedule?
Honestly, I can honestly say that I only drink lean, like maybe when I go to the studio, basically. Like when I'm going to the studio, I'll probably, you feel me? But like not on a every day I gotta wake up and I gotta feel high every day of lean. Like it's not for me it's not an addiction, but for some people it is.
Chuck, what about what he's saying in terms of it? It's that same effect. Like, you know, they use product placement in videos and on Instagram and stuff, everything to get people to do certain things.
What do you mean?
I mean, in terms of the effect, do you think it's not pushing it, but it's even if you're portraying it, where do you draw the line between just talking about what's in the culture and kind of expanding it?
I mean, I definitely think some people are pushing it. I mean, you have rappers like Lil Xan, not to highlight him, but his name is Lil Xan, short for Xanax. So it's inferred that that's something that you need to be associated with if you have a rapper with that name. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that there is an effect. I think that there are things that are just a part of the culture, for better or worse.
But it doesn't have to be, though.
No, it definitely doesn't have to be. But, you know, I mean, let's just keep it a buck. You know, people from the 80s were doing hard drugs. They were doing crack. They were doing cocaine. They weren't promoting it as it is today.
Grandmaster Flash, White Lines.
Yeah, White Lines. Yeah. But, you know, they went back. That was actually a pro-cocaine song that they added the don't
warning
do it.
part. Right.
They added that. But cocaine is still kind of like you could be a weekend warrior. A lot of people were weekend warriors with that. I mean,
but
it's
here's
still addiction.
Absolutely.
So just because that you don't wake up every morning and think about it, it doesn't mean that you're not addicted. You have people who are functional addicts and you have people that are non-functional addicts. And I come from a family that was split between both. And some people, they do it once a week. Some people, they did it every day, but it's still an addiction because first of all, it's not healthy for you. And an overdose, you know, addiction is a very complicated disorder to understand, and is usually typically associated with the misuse of drugs and also the psychological component to it,
like depression.
Again,
is that what
stress.
drives people to begin with?
Some people, you know, depending on who you talk to. A lot of times when I speak with patients that may have overdosed, whether it's intentional or accidental, I usually go back and ask them, like, okay, what happened prior to this? What pushed you to, you know, take this drug to this amount, to this limit? And a lot of people, whether it be young people to people around my age or even older, like elderly people as well, that are also overdosing on these drugs, say, you know, I'm stressed out, I'm depressed. Or some people, when they talking to me, they don't even realize that they're actually depressed. So it's very complicated to understand addiction. It's something that we still don't understand why people become addicted. And again, and I'm coming from not just from the perspective of an emergency physician, but also
as a family
grown up
member,
in a household,
a family member,
where my own family were also addicted to a number of drugs as well.
How do you define addiction? Addiction, because you talk about there's functional addicts. How do you define, like, when should Gooey, does he worry, you know, he can do lean now or whatever, does he reach a point it's under control? Does he reach a point where, Gooey, do you worry about that? Like, is it going to get out of control or out of hand?
Nah, I honestly don't. Like, I'm in control of whatever I do, honestly. Like, I know, like, if it's getting too far, and I just feel as though I don't.
But how do you know when you get too far? Because I hear a lot of people say that when it comes to the emergency department, and they said, you know, I didn't, you know, I usually have this under control, and then there'd be that one time that it'd be like last time.
Yeah, but like me personally, I go to the doctor a lot, so like I go get checkups a lot. So like if I feel as though if they tell me like son changing here, I won't do this. And I eat healthy on a daily basis.
But you can eat healthy. I know people who are vegans. I know people who work out and they can overdose. That has nothing to do with, you could be healthy, you can run every day, you can exercise. But when you are taking certain opiates or certain drugs, again, or overdose is when is a toxin amount of that drug or combination of drugs that overwhelms your body. And you may get to that, not you, I'm not saying you, I'm just saying over in general, I'm saying that, you know, you can get to that point where you might not get that effect, the same effect that you had before, because you build a high tolerance
and you have to do more and more.
And you have to do more and more, and increase your risk of coma
and it just
and death.
you to get that high. We're going to talk about that in a second.
You gotta drink a pint a day in order for you to like
no.
If you like, I feel as this like this, you saying like it's opioids and a lot of other things outside of lean. Like it's like people are overdosing by doing a lot or consuming. Like you can't tell me if I drink lean today or once a week that I'm gonna.
But you build the tolerance to it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You build the tolerance to it. You actually, it's the same thing with crack.
Wait, let's explain to us how does it make you feel, and how do you control it?
I'm just saying, like you gotta consume a lot of lean in order for you to turn to like you gotta like really like. I feel as though if I drink lean today and I drink lean next weekend, or maybe it might be the week after that, or a matter of the span of time, I don't feel as though I'm gonna go into the emergency room or I'm gonna overdose in my bed or something like that. I don't feel that way. Like, I feel as though if I feel myself needing more of something, I'm gonna leave it alone. Like if I feel as though I gotta consume more of this to get high, I don't need it. You feel me?
But how does it explain the high to us? How does it make you feel?
It's relaxing, like basically, like it just relaxes you basically. It also makes you drowsy, like, but it's different strokes for different folks. Me personally, it's just relaxing. Like when I go record in the studio, it's a vibe. Like it's a part of the culture.
Takes away all the distractions and lets
basically.
you focus more on the music.
But what you just said is basically that's what all opiates do. That's exactly what all opiates do. They bring you to that euphoric effect because it's working on the receptors in your brain. So what you just said, what you just mentioned earlier, and how you span it out, you build the tolerance over time. And what you just said was the same thing I said. After a while, if you feel that you need to consume more to get that high effect, you will stop, but others won't.
Chuck, final word on the hip hop culture. What do you think hip hop needs to do? Anything?
I mean,
or fans?
I just think you know, from I'm not an artist, but you know, my thing is be original. You know, show the depth of your artistry. Show how powerful you really, really are. I just feel like there's so much more to talk about. There's so much more to life. There's so much more to this world.
Aspects, right?
Absolutely, and I think the proper artist can do just about anything.
That's right.
And to me, I always prided myself, even when I was rapping or whatever, that I didn't drink or that I didn't kill black people. Like that was something that I was personally proud of. Mm-hmm. Right. And I held on to that. And obviously it didn't work out, so maybe
it did, because you said right.
No, it did, because you're right here on Street Soldiers right now, and you're sharing it with a lot of people.
I'm joking, but I'm an original type of person. Like that's my square, you know, really being an original. So for hip hop, I want to see more and more artists just being individuals. Right.
All right. Well, I want to thank you all for being with us for this episode of Street Soldiers. Kingui, thank you so much for being so open about your experiences and sharing your story with us. I appreciate it. Dr. Arabia Mollett, thank you for all the great information and insight. We really appreciate it. And Chuck Creekmore, always great to have you on the hip hop tip here. Thank you so much. Yeah. And thank you for watching this episode of Street Soldiers. I'm your host, Lisa Evers. Remember, use your mind. It's your best weapon. I hope it's your only weapon. Let's push for peace.